People say I talk about some weird stuff, some far out stuff. But how about that chair that you're sitting in isn't solid? How weird is that? This reality is nothing like we think it is.
When I saw what Icke is doing, I was a bit jealous on him. Wow, look at what this guy's doing.
I don't know if anybody else could do it but him, actually.
We are in a period now where speaking your truth is not just important, it's utterly crucial to where humanity goes from here. The world needs renegades, and it needs them now.
Now, you may have noticed that there is a gathering, shall we say, discontent. Better word will be contempt for politicians. Probably never more so in Britain, for instance, now, than over Brexit. And in America, you've got enormous opposition to Trump, and you've got the most pathetic, clueless, programmed, democratic leadership possibly ever, probably ever. Well, definitely ever when I think about it a little bit more. You've got the Ocasio-Cortezes, the Cory Bookers, the others, with one exception, Tulsi Gabbard, who are running for president. And they are extraordinarily inept, unintelligent, and totally consumed by identity politics at the exclusion of little things like homelessness and deprivation of the population. Not that they care about the deprivation of white people, because they're supremacists and white nationalists, and white people living in the street are expressions of white privilege. This is the madness that has totally consumed the Democratic Party in America, and it's been done with the funding and manipulation of George Soros more than anyone. So we should be calling them the Soros Democratic Party, because that's what it is. And of course, there are people who don't like that, who have contempt for those politicians, as others have contempt for Trump, as people in this country have contempt for the politicians over Brexit, where the political class of so-called left, right, and centre have conspired together, along with the political class in Europe, the unelected bureaucrats in Brussels and others, to thwart the will of the referendum of the British people, which decided they wanted to leave the European Union. Very sensible thing, but it wasn't what the political class want, and more importantly, it wasn't what that which controls the political class wants, and therefore it's been thwarted. I mean, even if by some miracle we officially left the European Union, it will not be Brexit, because of all the ties and controls that will remain. All this has been brought about by the political class. So where I'm going with this, as I said in the introduction to this subject, is that people have contempt for politicians on a scale probably never before seen. But when you look at how the world's controlled, who, by, and how, you have to be incredibly streetwise to how it works. Otherwise, you're going to get scammed while thinking you're challenging the scam. I see this in the alternative media all the time. It's a psychological war on humanity. It's about creating perceptions which lead to support, or at least not telling opposition to what this cabal wants. And as I keep saying, I've been saying it in these talks I've been doing around the world and the books, if you know the outcome desired, you can see the journey towards that outcome. If you don't know what the outcome desired is, then everything just seems like random events with no pattern and no meaning. But there are clear meanings if you put the patterns together. So the outcome politically that this cabal wants and has been planning for all along, it's in its own writings, is what it calls the post-democratic society. It wants an end to elected governments. And to do that, it requires people to support it, or at least not oppose it, in numbers that will be effective. You're not going to get that support for a post-democratic society where people are appointed according to so-called expertise, which won't be expertise at all. It will be the fact that they are agents of this cabal. You're not going to get support for that if people have any vestige of respect for the democratic system and for politicians. So on one level, what is happening politically, and thus the contempt that more and more people have for politicians and politics, and indeed the democratic system which produced them, the more support there are going to be, or is going to be, for this post-democratic society. Oh, politicians, they're useless. Let the experts do it. That's the thought process that they are seeking to manipulate into place. And there was a poll recently, or a study, by something called the Hansard Society in Britain, which found that a very large number of people who were questioned now support the idea of a leader who, quote, breaks the rules and is not hamstrung by Parliament. And what we've seen on the surface, it's not really like that, but on the surface, it appears to people that don't know the story that the British Prime Minister Theresa May has been thwarted in her desire for Brexit, last thing she wants, by Parliament, which has stopped her deal, which is not a Brexit at all, going through. And now we're having more and more delays, and the idea is to bring about a second referendum, which they will absolutely spend limitless amounts of money on propaganda to overturn the original result, which is what the game has been all along, which is what I said on the internet within an hour of the referendum, 3 years ago, coming up. So what is happening is all planned to create a situation where people have such contempt for politicians that they will agree to this post-democratic society to sort out the mess. Well, have a look at the dark suits in Brussels, because that's what they're talking about, running the world in the post-democratic society. People have never seen a ballot box and would have a seizure if they ever did. And all you've got to do to bring this about is to make sure that lots of disingenuous, mendacious, incompetent politicians are voted to office and voted to Parliament or Congress. And that's dead easy. That's so easy. It's unbelievably easy. You control the hierarchy of the political parties, where in Britain and America, etc., there are two that have any chance of forming a government. So you've only got to control two, basically. They control more than that, but you've only got to really control two to control the government. Through the hierarchy of the parties, you ensure that useless candidates stand for the party. And in most constituencies, people vote on the basis of the party and not the person. And so you can put a totally useless, my God, how many times have they done it? A totally useless man or woman up for election in a constituency. And as long as they've got the right colour rosette on, they're going to get in. So what's happened through this system that's so easy to manipulate is that useless, incompetent, mendacious, disingenuous people have been voted to Parliament. And of course, they put themselves on public display, not least over Brexit. And people look at it and say, they're bloody useless. They don't represent the people. And this is building this mentality among the public to accept the post-democratic society. The answer is not a post-democratic society. The answer is power moving from the center to communities where they can look the people in the eye. Not saying that's going to be perfect. It isn't. My goodness me, the people running the Isle of Wight are everything that is wrong with politics. But at least it brings it down to a human level. And people start voting for people and not parties. You know, someone criticized me recently for posting video interviews, etc., involving Tucker Carlson on Fox News in America, and for criticizing a lady called Rachel Maddow, who is a presenter, I won't call her a journalist because it's the last thing she is, on MSNBC. And the reason was that MSNBC is of the progressive ilk, and Fox is of the right or conservative. Now, so although Carlson does some excellent exposés on his program and some excellent interviews on subjects that need a different angle being communicated, he's on Fox. So Fox brackets bad. Rachel Maddow, although she's been lying for 2 years about Russian collusion with the Trump administration and has now been exposed as having done that, she is on MSNBC, which is brackets good. Now, that's how politics works. That's how they get these incompetent, disingenuous people into power. And that's the mentality that allows the few to control the world. How about, instead of saying it's all good or it's all bad, how about making judgments on what is actually said and asking the question, is it true? Now, if I look at Fox News in general, I think it's appalling. You know, there are presenters on there that are outrageously biased to one political stance. But when you look at MSNBC and CNN, there's even more blatantly outrageous political bias from the other side. And what this does is what it's really about on one level is gives the public the image that there is political debate going on. There isn't, but it seems that there is. But does that mean that Fox News never does any interview or makes any, runs any story that isn't worth hearing? Of course not. Does it mean, I think, disgusting as they are, because of who controls them and why, that CNN and MSNBC never make any statement that is actually true? No. So what people in control of their own minds do is they make those judgments on that basis. Is it true? Does it sound credible? And in terms of someone who runs a website like me, I'm going to post this because I feel that's right. I'm not going to post that because that's obviously propaganda. And once you fall in, and this is where we're being pushed, once you fall into this black is black and white is white mentality, you're finished, gone. You've lost your mind, literally, to external manipulation. It's a very, very important area. If we want to take our minds back, we start judging what is right and wrong, not by who's saying it, but by whether it appears to be true or not. And to think that's revolutionary shows the depths to which human society has fallen.
The world needs renegades, and it needs them now.